This is going to be your best
Listen.
podcast ever.
Epicurean, but OFC and pink lemonade's pretty damn good. It'll put your boat in the marsh. Jesus did not die so you could eat yellow number 5. Excitable.
The nose starts off gentle with noticeable scents of grain that takes shape in the form of fresh baked bread.
Ma'am, you're in the wrong podcast. Educated-ish. I have used the term overproof for so long without really knowing what it was. Yeah, because for
Is
me,
there a definition officially?
welcome to Bitches and Bourbon. And we're live. Hello, my Reba. How are you today?
What's up? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I just realized that I haven't moved my monitor over so I can't see your face. I'm not really sure what we're going to do today. We were supposed to have a guest, but we're already here. We're already together.
And shit's already been poured. So
It's already been poured. We're
So
just going to roll with it today. But what's wonderful is it does happen to be the 27th of December.
yeah.
So it's a great time for reflection, and maybe we don't get too heavy and some kind of neat stuff. And we did. So our guest today, who just canceled, I'm sure he's a fine guy. I don't really know him, but whatever, is a wine guy. And so we have poured wine today, and I'm very, very excited about that because it is kind of early in the afternoon. And I just love wine, and it's wonderful.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, so to get us started, I will go ahead and tell you that I am drinking a Lorca Malbec, and it is one of my favorite wines. I've had a bunch of different vintages, and Malbec happens to be my favorite grape, and this winemaker, it has been one of my favorite winemakers, I guess, for about 4 or 5 years now. I found this service called Naked Wines, and it reminds me of Columbia House back in the day where you send in a penny and it's a subscription.
You get a monthly delivery.
Yeah, except for I like their model much better because like it's just the subscription price per month, and it's almost like it's dollar for dollar in a savings account. Like you don't lose, like you get out exactly what you put into it.
Nice.
And so you can save it up, and usually I don't have to buy a whole lot of wine during the year except for when we hit bookcation.
Yeah.
And so it's really nice because I've got this great big balance in there from the year, and I just go ahead and buy like 20, 24 bottles of wine, and it's good for bookcation, and whatever I bring home
Not
usually
complaining.
gets me through the rest of the year. Typically it does, but it's just a great service. I really enjoy them. They're typically wines that you can't get anywhere else. So I won't go too in depth about this particular bottle because I'm assuming, I don't know. I've never investigated their claims that you can't get this stuff anywhere else. And if you can, I ain't mad at them because I love the service I get, however they do it. But anyway, I won't go into too much detail about it, except for it is a Malbec. That is my favorite grape. It's fairly dry, but it's still a little on the sweet side. So if the dryness isn't your favorite, you're still probably going to enjoy it. It's full flavored. I really enjoy it. And yeah, so that's what I'm drinking today. Reba, how about you?
So when it comes to wine, I am a complete basic bitch. I mean, I think that is maybe one of the truest things that I've shared. I am drinking a Barefoot's Pinot Grigio today. I am a sweet wine if I'm going to drink wine person. So usually it is going to be a Pinot Grigio of sorts or a sweet red. And I'm not crazy about dries. I'm not very knowledgeable about wines other than I know that I don't like a whole lot of them. So, yep, basic bitch when it comes to wine.
I don't know that I would call that basic. I would call that I would call that knowing what you know. Like you like what you like, and I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I've drank barefoot wine bunches of times.
I mean, I've been very pleased with
Yeah.
all the barefoots that I have tried. And I feel like they have a very wide variety of offerings.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that Barefoot Company is a basic bitch. I'm just saying that I'm basic when it comes to wine.
I love that. And I'll be really honest, that's one thing that I've discovered throughout my wine journey is that I don't necessarily need it to be expensive.
Oh yeah.
And I think we've talked about this in detail before that frankly, I don't really want it to be expensive because then I feel bad. So my wine glass, you can see it in the picture in the podcast notes. My wine glass will hold it'll hold a half a bottle of wine. So like one bottle of wine will give me 2
servings
glasses. And I use that because when I go to enter my numbers in my tracker, how many glasses of wine did you have? I had one. I had one.
I had one.
I had one. And then if I finish the bottle, how many glasses of wine did you have? I had 2. And I don't give a shit. Like that's my counter. You handle your tracker the way you want to handle your tracker. I'm going to handle it the way I want to handle mine.
Nice.
But I say all that to say I prefer, I don't feel guilty is not the right word to use either. I just don't feel a kind of way that I've poured 2 glasses of wine and the bottle is gone because I spent $20 on it. So it's like $10 a glass and that's fine. Like, and I guess because I've been with Naked Wine so long, their $12 to $18 bottle of wine ranges are so good to me. Like I really enjoy them. And I've had more expensive bottles where I'm looking at it going, first of all, I'm going to drink the whole bottle.
Yes.
And it was $200. And
is there that big of a difference?
Correct.
In your 2 glasses?
Correct. So I think that for me, if I buy a $200 bottle of whiskey, it is going to last me. Usually.
No,
if we
not always, but it's usually for an occasion.
If we open it during a party, it's not going to. If we don't open for a party, it will. Like the Glenmorangie 18 is still hanging out on my counter. We didn't the Glenmorangie 25 lasted for a very nice time.
Yes.
The Johnny Walker Blue typically lasts us almost the whole year because that's just a special bottle. And like, it's not like nobody here thinks that the blue is
amazingly tasty.
I love it, but I don't think it's $180 better than the Johnny Walker Gold.
Right.
Agreed. So I'm going to spend $60 for the Johnny Walker Gold or $220
regularly.
Right. Or $220 for the blue. And I just don't think the blue is that much better. However, I do think their Chinese New Year's glasses or bottles are all worth every penny of the extra that I spend when I buy those bottles once a year. So, anywho, I have found that I'm good with that $20 range. I like it. It makes me comfortable. It's usually very pleasing, and I just don't have problems with I don't have problems with grocery store wine. I don't have problems with box wine. I don't have problems with twist top wine. I remember when I first tried to get into wine, I couldn't. Like I just knew that I was going to have my chick card pulled, right? Couldn't get into wine, preferred beer, thought Channing Tatum looked like a potato. Like I don't like to shop. I just knew that my chick card, like this wine was going to be the last straw. Like my chick card is getting pulled. And so I kind of left it alone for a little while. And then I think what happened was when I started to kind of put my health in check, one of the first things I did was I started to pull all of the extras out of my coffee.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got to the point where now I drink my coffee black, and that kind of moved things.
Your taste profile and
correct.
Yeah.
I just that one move. I used to keep cookie dough, the tubes that you can buy at the store.
To eat raw.
Yes. I used to keep those in the refrigerator. Like my mom and my sister and I were talking about this yesterday because almost all the food is gone from Christmas, but there's still like 4 desserts hanging out. And It's because like everybody is like nobody's eating that much sweet stuff anymore. Like if we're looking for food, like I'm hungry, what do you want? Well, we have cake or we have gumbo, we have pie or we have this low country boil, like
Yeah.
red beans and rice. Like what are you going to eat? Well, we want the savory stuff, right? Not so much the sweet stuff. And I think that was a huge change for me when I started to pull all that stuff out of my coffee, everything else in my flavor profile. And maybe because that's the way I started my day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because it's the one sweet thing I had every single day. But yeah, that one change kind of flipped everything. And I realized when I threw a half roll of cookie dough away because it had gone bad,
Yeah.
I was like, who am I? Like, I don't even know who I am
A
anymore.
different level of reevaluating.
It was so different. It was so different. And so I think that's when, and then I went back, I had another bottle of red and I really, really liked it. And
Nice.
yeah, and so that's kind of where my entry into wine came from. And now I'm just a huge fan.
About how long ago would you say that was?
That was probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
Probably about 10 years ago, because that's when I had gotten into ultra running and trying to see exactly what an almost middle-aged body would do. Do you know what you know what I mean? It was the point in my life, in my mid-30s, people stopped being surprised that I had all the children
Yeah.
that I had. And I was like, wait a minute, why aren't you shocked? Well, I'm like, look at you, April, you're kind of getting unfit. I'm not going to say fluffy and I'm not going to say overweight because it was none of those things, but I was definitively not taking care of myself. My hair wasn't, my skin wasn't, my muscle tone wasn't. And so people just stopped being surprised. And I was like, well, this is not going to work for me. So, yeah, that's kind of when it happened. So finally, after a ton of back and forth because of everybody's schedules, because we know how people's schedules go, and that's fine. I'm not too super worried about it. But we have rescheduled this one a couple of times, and I'm super excited. And I almost don't even want to say it because I know how my schedule gets and your schedule gets and the guy's schedule gets. So I almost don't want to put this out into the universe and say it for fear that it might not happen. But it looks like the Booze app guys are coming back on in a couple of weeks. So I am super excited about that. Evidently, they have some big news to share. I think I already know what it is because there was a pretty big announcement made, a press release and all that other kind of stuff. But I'm not going to spoil their surprise by talking about it. But the Booze apps guys will be here in a couple of weeks. And so I'm super excited about that. We haven't talked to those guys in a minute.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just ticking through like our little checklist of stuff that never fit anywhere else.
Now's the perfect time to wrap up our year.
I think we just roll with it. Speaking of,
we get to talk about this being potentially our last recording to go into our anniversary of our release.
Yeah, we have to do an anniversary episode though, I think. I think we just have to. Or maybe we make this it. With what?
Our infinity bottle.
With our infinity bottle, but we just did an infinity bottle. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and tell you that 2023, as far as this project and other ancillary projects that I have go, I have been very remiss. Like I have not planned it well. I haven't planned it well. No, literally. So it is December 27th, like a couple of days ago, the episode that we released, we recorded in July. So that's where we are.
Do we have many? Do we have any?
Yeah, we do. We do. So still to be released. So right now we still have 4 episodes in the hopper to release. And I was thinking about that when I was editing the last one and the one that will release hopefully before the end of the year. And then I knew that we would record this one as well. I think that from the beginning, what we've done is we've always released them in the order in which they were recorded.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I don't do that.
Don't stress about it.
Yeah, I think I don't stress about that.
Yeah.
I think I don't stress about that. I know we circle back some, but I think that the ways we circle back, I think the continuity would be fine. And I'll tell you another thing that I've started to do in 2023 is intermittent fasting. And I know that sounds like that's a huge tangent. It's really not. So just stick with me for 2 seconds. So with intermittent fasting, I really like it. The older I get, I have found that it kind of evens my hormones out as much as the many voices in my head will allow them to be evened out. And so what it means is that my eating window is from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock in the evening. And that's a little later than some people do theirs. A lot of people start theirs more midday, like 11 or 12, maybe even 10, and then go to 6, 7, or 8. But I had to plan in for my nightcap, right? And so that counts. So 9 o'clock is my cutoff, 1 to 9.
So that includes anything besides water
and coffee. As long as you don't put anything in it. Water, coffee, tea, no sugar, no calories. Like as long as it's calorie 0, you're fine. You can have that.
So all alcohol.
Yes, right. So 9 o'clock is my cutoff. So what that means for these midday recordings that I didn't think about until just now is that I haven't eaten since 7 o'clock yesterday.
It makes it you feeling better. I haven't eaten either.
Yeah, I haven't eaten. And so I was like, wow, that wine is really good. And then you're like, no, you
have an empty stomach.
Yeah, we hit record at the end of my fast window and I just went with it. So here we go. That's fine. Whatever.
Snack.
No, I'm good. No, we'll just rock
Grab you
on.
some nuts.
Yeah, we'll just rock on. Oh, speaking of, this is crazy. So it's the end of the year. And we all know how I get at the end of the year. Well, maybe Podcast Universe doesn't because this is only your second year with me. But at the end of the year, like most people, I get super reflective, like the year that's passed. And I don't know why the calendar does that. Like a couple of years ago, I told myself, don't do that. Like make those adjustments, have those conversations with yourself whenever they're appropriate. But for some reason, the end of the year, and I think it's because you're off. You have downtime. Everybody has downtime. Like nobody's doing anything that doesn't relate to the holidays, right? So it just makes it a real conducive time to do it. But I've gotten this period of time, I always go looking for things like inspire me, motivate me, reflect me, like do something for me, right? And so I'm scrolling through Netflix yesterday and I came across Chris Hemsworth's Limitless. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Have you watched it?
It's not new, right?
No, he released it November last year. It's a year old.
I think so.
I think you would remember. I think if you saw it, you would remember watching it. It's 6 episodes long.
I have not watched it.
So I'm like, okay, it's Thor.
Mm-hmm.
We'll check it out. And so I played the first episode, and what it's about is he has decided that he wants longer quality life, right? And so he has embarked on this journey to figure out how do you pull quality and quantity at the same time out of your life. Okay. And so he undergoes like 6 extreme challenges throughout his year. So he's under the care of this lifestyle doctor or whatever, and he gets these battery of tests done to kind of figure out his baseline.
Okay.
And then they put him through these different tests. So the first one is stress, and it talks about what stress does to the body and ways that he needs to do things to accommodate stress levels. The second one is shock, and he does this Arctic swim.
Of course.
Right? And the third is fasting, which was a lot of fun. The fourth one was his strength training. And then, so after you've hit 4 episodes, you are emotionally invested.
Okay.
Because it's Thor. And there's his children and his wife and his friends, and Liam shows up for support and these kinds of things.
Okay.
And these first 4 episodes, you don't realize how vulnerable he's going to be. You have Thor on here talking about this is hard. In one challenge, he fails. Like he doesn't make it. Like he doesn't perform. And so he's scared. He fails. And he's talking about how hard it is. And it's very reflective because he knows that he's doing these things for a purpose. He always talks about his children and his grandchildren, right?
Okay.
So you are completely emotionally invested. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you there's a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to know, if you just want to see for yourself, go ahead and pause it. I'm not giving Reba that option. I'm just going to spoil it for her.
That's okay.
I'm telling you that it doesn't matter that I spoil it. you're still going, like, I don't know that there's a way not to feel empathy when this happens. So episode 5 is the memory episode. And that's when you find out about like these baseline battery of tests that he's taken. And it's revealed to him that he has a rare combination of 2 genes that makes him 10 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's. Yes. And you're just like, you're crushed with him.
Especially when you know, when you can already relate.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so then there's this memory episode. And so now you're all in your feels. And then they hit you with episode 6, which is acceptance. And there is this palliative care doctor who comes in. And there is this MIT designed aging suit that puts on weight, yet and it restricts your movement.
Yeah.
And there's these glasses and this helmet that blurs your vision, decreases your hearing, and these shoes that make you off balance. And then they put him in this nursing home environment where he lives for 3 days.
Wow.
As an old man, right? So he walks in, it's very disorienting. He talks about how it's very isolating. And his room, they have aged his wife, aged him for pictures. So there's these pictures on the wall of him as he's getting older. And there are all of these elderly people in this nursing home with him.
Completely discombobulated.
Completely. And then if that's not enough, like
Right.
if he isn't completely about himself feeling all kind of feels, right? On the 2nd or 3rd day he's there's a dance. And unbeknownst to him, makeup artists age his wife 50 years. And while you're like, how is he going to respond to that? Then they show her getting the makeup work done. And at that moment, like, she steals the whole show, right? Because she starts talking about the vulnerability that happens and being a woman in society and seeing yourself that way. And she gets to a point where she's like, I don't really want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, this is so amazingly real. And then she says, I really don't know that I want Chris to see me this way. And I'm like, yes, Reba's tearing up. I cried like a baby. Like, I'm just in tears. And then they gets to the dance. Chris is greeted at the door by one of the old women in the nursing home. And she goes, buddy, I've set you up with a date. Do you see that girl in the pink over there? Go get her. And her back's to the wall. And you can tell as soon as he touches her shoulder, he knows exactly who it is. Like, he knows her by her shoulder. And when she turns around, there's no hesitation at all. He knows exactly who she is. And she comes back, you know, the little camera interviews that they do. And she says, it was the safest I've ever felt. It was just amazing. It was amazing. And then they do this thing where they have a death doula come in and they kill him. Like, there's an ambulance response team that comes in, and it's lights and sirens and
Like the real-
stretchers. Yeah. And there's heart monitors going. And then the death doula comes in and she goes, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. And so she walks him through like his own death. It was amazing.
So what is the outcome
Of the death?
No, of this experience for him?
So for him, what it seems like for him is he has found this new appreciation because he's fucking Thor,
Well,
right? And like, when you look at him, you're like, you've got to be one of the healthiest men on the planet. What comes out from him is there's still more I can do. You have to be mindful. You have to be present. Just because I can put on 40 pounds for a role and I can look this way and I have no kind of qualms with taking my shirt off or the way that I look or my financial success level, there's still these things that I can do
to improve
quality, right?
I mean, he doesn't see himself as Thor, does he? I mean,
And I don't think so. I don't think he does, but I think that he assumes that he's healthy, right?
Okay.
That he assumes, and that's what he talks about. He goes, and I think it is kind of like this mindset that we all have, that death and aging is this thing that nobody wants to think about. And that's what the palliative care doctor said.
That's way down the road.
Right. He says
nowhere near it.
He goes, we don't think about it. He goes, we
Yeah.
have this really terrible relationship. And when we start to get old and our body starts to do the things that it does, we look at that like our body is failing us. He says, and we really have to retrain our brain for the way that we look at aging and death and those types of things. And his wife said something very interesting. She said, to go from 37 to 87 is jarring. She says, isn't it a gift that life gives us these gradual moves to get adjusted? And that was one of the things about the aging suit that they put Chris in. The doctor was like, what Chris is doing right now is fighting it. He's trying to defeat the suit.
Overcome it.
He says, everybody does that. And what they'll find is you cannot. You can't. And then there comes this where you try to adapt. Yeah. And then even adaptation is exhausting. Mm-hmm. And so then you just really have to kind of come to an acceptance. They had some really cool people. That last episode had the neatest guests, I think, of all of them. They had this guy that used to be this huge kung fu competitor, who now has had an injury, now does this Tai Chi and has this beautiful outlook on life. There was this guy from Fiji whose brother was the chief. He died, destroyed him emotionally, but then he had to figure out how to move into that. It was really I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this show, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing. But it did kind of get me into this mood where when I realized we were going to record today, and then when the guest didn't show up, I'm like, yeah, that's all right. I'm fine with it. Yeah. This works. This works. There's plenty to talk about.
And it's kind of ironic because, not necessarily ironic, but just, I guess, coincidence that there was a conversation that came up even just the other day at your mama's of, talking about the things that people's bodies are going through and things like that. And a comment was made of if I thought that my body was going to go this long, I would have took better care of it and, not treated it like it was, like a rental kind of thing, and it's hard to think about that whenever you're young and doing your thing and living your life and not thinking about 50 years ahead. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that kind of take that for granted and just assume that it's going to be what it's going to be. And, but even now, I mean, some of the things that we're even going through now and, not even at 50, it's already like, damn, if I would have done this differently, or if I would have, if I would have done it differently, then maybe I wouldn't have done this. But then, what else would be different? So I mean, you can't live with regrets either, but at the same time, I appreciate that of what changes can I make now going forward to improve the quality in addition to getting the most out of it. So I appreciate that. And in that mindset, like with I appreciated joining book club because, like I mentioned before, like it's helped me to venture outside of my comfort zone of reading books that, I wouldn't typically read, and, a lot of different genres. And what's funny is, like, so one of my goals for 2023 was to read more. And so I made a big effort to keep track of the books that I completed. My goal for 2023 was to increase my amount of reading, whether it be, audio, whether it be, book in my hand. And so like I, would set a time limit of, if I was still awake after 10 p.m., for example, I wasn't watching TV. I wasn't on my phone. If I was still awake, the only thing I would allow myself to do was read. And I can't begin to tell you how much reading I got done because of that. Because I struggle to fall asleep. So I got through more than 40 books this year.
Nice.
Yes, it's awesome to be able to say that because I can't recall the last time. And I'm talking about pleasure reading. None of them were school related books. None of them were, for requirement.
Right.
But what's funny is, on this topic, one of the ones that stand out the most to me is the book called The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck by Sarah Knight.
What a great book. What a great book.
And it's not about not giving a fuck. It's about prioritizing the fucks that you give,
Yes.
and coincidentally, because of just many other factors going on this year, this year's Christmas was very low key. We really didn't do a whole lot, so there wasn't, many gifts or anything like that. But I tell you, the best gift of all.
You mean the one from your mom? Yes. Absolutely.
That we both received.
Absolutely.
Our fuck it calendars.
It was so good.
For tired ass women. Now, we will not get into the whole of it, but we have to at least share a few.
I think you absolutely should. So this calendar is amazing. I have no idea where she found it. My suspicion is it was probably a Facebook scroll.
Yes, because I've already asked because I really wanted to pick up one for someone else I know. And she said, I can try to find the link, but it's something that just popped up in my feed. So let me entertain you with just a few of the highlights. And of course, we have to start out with January. How perfect is it that January starts out with fresh out of fucks already this year? And at the bottom, it says it's okay to just let that shit go. We'll share our birthday months. We have Ringmaster of the Shit Show.
That's me.
You make magical shit happen every single day.
Every single fucking day.
Then we have mine. I, a happy-go-lucky ray of fucking sunshine.
You are. You really are.
No one can steal your thunder when you are the fucking storm.
You are.
And then we'll just wrap up with December's. Adulting is bullshit. If you listen very closely, you can hear me not giving a fuck.
It's true. It's true.
This calendar is so fucking perfect.
It is, absolutely. And what I really don't want is that life-changing magic of not giving a fuck is one of the best things I've ever read. Yes. If you want to know the absolute truth.
Yeah.
I thought that I had it handy. It doesn't look like I do. Which is very sad for me.
Like of all the 40 some books that I read this year, that is the one that stands out the most.
It's full of like those, and I don't know. I would venture to say it's the same for men, but I don't really have these kind of conversations typically with men. But I know for myself and for women that I know, there is this idea that you have to have it all under control. Like you have to do all of the things and you have to do it well. And if you don't, it's because you have prioritized something for yourself that you shouldn't be prioritizing over the things that you are supposed to be taking care of outside of yourself.
Should have been a priority.
Should have been a priority. And I think for, and like I said, I'm certain this is true for men. Haven't had this conversation very much with men.
And focusing a lot on others' perceptions.
Correct.
Versus reality.
I think that the perception is that women feel it in a way that men don't, is because women sit around and talk about it, and we'll talk about it publicly, and we don't care that you know that we talk about it, where men just don't. Because and Brene Brown does great work with this kind of thing, and vulnerability, and how vulnerability looks different for men and women, and the way men feel safe and the way women feel safe. But at any rate, I found this book amazing because it was just almost like this big ass permission slip to just make sure that your life and your minutes coincide with the things that you want and the things that you believe and that bring you joy and you happiness. And it almost equates to when you're in the airplane and the safety brief comes on and they say, make sure you take care of your face mask before you take care of anybody else's face mask.
Yes.
Because if you can't breathe, you die.
Right.
Oh
Or
my,
are you going to help anyone else?
oh my God.
What?
So yesterday, when we're watching this Chris Hemsworth thing, there is the episode where, what was he? I think it was the Arctic swim, maybe something. Anyway, my husband looks at me and he says, "Oh my God." He says, have you seen the Longest Breath documentary?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never even heard of it.
No.
He says, we absolutely have to watch it. So like in between episode like 3 and 4 or 4 and 5, I don't remember, but it didn't help the feels that I got into at episode 5 and 6 of Chris Hemsworth's Limitless. The Longest Breath, and what I liked about it was it's a documentary that I never would have watched on my own, and it had so many things about it that I didn't even know existed in the world. Mostly free diving. I've never really heard of free diving. I didn't know that it was a thing.
Yeah.
But it's where people go and they dive down to these
Without
crazy depths.
Masks or
Nothing.
no air tank.
No air.
Yeah.
No air. And so there was this moment in the very beginning. The cinematography is fantastic because what they do is they don't speed anything up. Like if you're looking for something that's fast paced, watch something else because that's part of the thing. You realize that this is happening real time and they're still holding their breath.
So my
and they're
husband is not
still
gonna be able
going
to watch
deeper.
this with me.
Oh, it's hard.
He cannot.
It's a
I
hard.
already know that.
It's a hard watch. And I was like, wow. But it's disturbing. Like the first time you watch the safety divers pull somebody up and they're blacked out and their faces when they start to come to.
I can't imagine.
You're like, why would you?
Yes.
I was like, this is bananas.
Yes.
Like, I'm not doing that.
No.
But like, good for them. And I think what it was about this show was you see people living life on their own terms. And I think that was one of the things. I think that's the thing. When I hit my 40s, I swore to God I was going to do that. And I wasn't going to let anything stand in my way of living life on my own terms. And then once you get to that level, it's like a video game. Like people always, I love it when people talk about life as a video game because it really is like that. You get to this level. And then when you get there, you realize, okay, I'm here. And then the bosses feel bigger because once you've accomplished this thing, then you notice the next things that you can do. So when I turned 40 and I decided that I was going to live life on my own terms, I was like, oh, I've arrived. And then you realize, okay, now that you do that, you have to deal with the consequences of living life on your own terms. And that's a whole nother set of quests, challenges, big bosses to fight. And that's kind of what this show, when I was watching this documentary, that's kind of those things that it reminded me, like you do this thing and why do you do it? And the only reason I can think of is because you don't want to do anything else. Like this is a thing inside of you. It's like, you know me, I think every life lesson on the planet can be learned from a Rocky movie. And that's really what it was in Balboa when he was like, I still have something in the tank. Like I still have this thing that I have to do. And it's when he tells Adrian, I'm a fighter, fighters fight. Right. And so I guess that's just that thing where you just do what it is you just have to do it.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. So yeah, it was great. That documentary was pretty good too. And this is how I live the last couple of weeks of my life every single year. I don't know that it's incredibly healthy. I don't know if it's the best use of my time, but it's absolutely what I do. So Reba, do you have a favorite moment of 2023?
Had a lot of fun with the Island John episode.
That's because that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot.
That was a
fun.
lot of fun.
We had a lot of company that day.
We did. It was, and that's one of those things. It's a lot of fun and weird, and you never know what it's going to sound like when you record it because there's so much going on. And you and I, we do this pretty regularly. So
Right.
we understand like sound and mic, and then I am routinely editing things. And so I know what it's going to be like on the back end when
Right.
it goes to edit to make it sound like something people want to listen to. And so when you get a whole bunch of new folks in, my husband's probably the worst. Like he gives two shits about where the mic is. He doesn't care. Like he's just going to talk and he doesn't care. And his ADHD will kick in and he'll just have whatever conversations he wants to have.
Wherever he's at.
But I'm always so thrilled when he shows up. Like that always makes me so very happy when he hangs out. I think my favorite moment of 2023, and this is going to be crazy. And I hate that you weren't here. But like when Jack Simmons came in and talked about his book, that was a lot of fun.
It was fun getting to chat with y'all afterward.
Yeah.
Like I was glad that I at least got to make it for that and got to meet him and have a conversation with y'all.
So Jack, if you're listening, and you better be, we'd love to have you back for 2024. But I kind of like that. I kind of like when we delve into the things that aren't necessarily boozy. Episodes like this, episodes when Kobe comes on and talks about how she incorporates her pleasures into her health and fitness, and moments when people like Jack come in and talk about their creative endeavors, or when we get together and it gets a little more academic. And I really like those moments. Don't get me wrong, Bitches and Bourbon is Bitches and Bourbon, and that's something that is something that I've sold out to. Like I don't want to change the format. I don't want to change the title. I don't want to change anything that we do here in this room as far as that goes. Although I will tell you, I mean, there's been times during the year, this year in particular, where I wonder if I've made the right choices in going that route. But I still stick firm to the fact that I love that. I love that. And if folks have qualms with the term bitches, I've just decided I love that for you.
Yes.
And I hope that we get to a place where we can see eye to eye and either agree to disagree or appreciate where the other ones come from. Because I appreciate where people come from when they say those things, but I'm just here for it.
And I completely agree. And so I don't want my next comment to come off as not. But I guess I just have a feeling to some degree that if there's an issue on the front end, that even if we change the front end, I have a feeling that the issue is going to develop anyway.
I
once
agree.
they start listening.
I agree. I completely agree.
Because it's us.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
I mean,
I completely agree. I think you really kind of hit it. I can sit here all day long and talk to you about the finer points of philosophy and literature, and we can get real academic, and we do a lot of the times with the booze bottles that we pull to the table. I know that's one of my favorite things about the show is the way we get real deep into what those things are and how they work and what they mean. And
I'm still not going to hesitate of fuck, shit, bitch coming out of my mouth.
Ever. George Carlin's 7 are entrenched in my vocabulary. And it's just what I do. And I think this is just what we do. Yeah. And I have to tell you, it has been such a treat spending another year with you.
Until the next one.
Cheers. Thanks for hanging out with Ape and Reba on this episode of Bitches and Bourbon.
Make sure to check out the links in the show notes, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Until next time, here's to bad bitches and good bourbon.
Cheers.
I mean, you have to like spicy pickle.